So we're on the Cohab Canyon Trail, and maybe this is a good time to tell you the story about our banking experience that happened the other day. So we had, traveled from Las Vegas through the Valley of Fire to St. George, Utah, on our way to where we're at right now, which is in Capitol Reef. And I could have done this in Las Vegas, but we were busy. Las Vegas takes a lot of your time and energy, and you're resting and then going and then resting and going. So when we got to Valley of Fire, our internet wasn't that great. That's another reason why I'm not posting very regularly. Believe me, I've got hundreds of videos I'd like to get up on the channel, but just don't have reliable data. So it's going to have to wait until we get, I don't know where. Anyway, so we got to St. George, and I need to get a new debit card before we take off to Europe, because once we're in Europe, it's going to be difficult to receive mail. I don't know, we're not going to be staying in any one place in particular for a very long length of time. I don't know how we'd even receive anything, and of course there's always a potential of damage, theft, etc., that can just happen randomly that we'll have to negotiate. But now my cards look like they're wearing out, so I need to replace them, and to order them and get them, to be at my house on time, it takes a few weeks. So I tried to use I use Charles Schwab Bank, but I do have a local bank in Texas. So I went on the Charles Schwab site. I did their automated process for ordering a card, and that was like 2 weeks before we went to Las Vegas. So we got to Las Vegas, and they had a fraud alert come up because, of course, I was spending money in Vegas. So I called them. They had shown the card had been ordered but not activated, and I didn't want to reorder a card when I was talking to the fraud hotline. So I said, you know what, I'll just check with the guy. There's a man who checks my mail and lets me know when things come in. So I contacted him, and I said via text, I said, hey, is there a debit card there from Schwab? And he told me no. So the day he told me no, we were in St. George, Utah. So I thought, well, my cell will work here. It might not work for the next 2 weeks while we're doing the big 5 parks in Utah. So I need to get that card ordered. So I called Schwab and talked to a real live human, and I explained to her the situation. I needed the card when we were leaving for Spain, and I had placed an order with the automated system, and the card had not come in yet. But my card that I was using, which has, most of our funds are in the Schwab account, because they actually have the best banking. I don't know, they don't charge you for ATMs, they reimburse all that. They don't give me any grief about where my money comes from. I mean, it's just real easy to use Schwab. It works. We used it all over Central and South America with no problems. So I like using the bank. So I called in to order a new card, to have a new card when we start our trip in November. And I thought everything was going great. I mentioned to the lady that I'd like to keep both cards, so just in case the other card had arrived at my home, but the guy just didn't recognize the envelope and it was sitting there. I wanted that card, and I wanted the card that I was ordering with her. And she told me that they couldn't do that they would have to deactivate the card that was ordered through the automated system. And I was like, that's fine, just don't deactivate the card that I currently have in my possession, because we need it. We're still traveling. We're not going to be home for another month. So we had just left Walmart. I had bought some propane bottles for our stove, and we were in the Walmart parking lot when I called them, and then we drove around to fill up the car with fuel. The card wouldn't work. I went in to ask the teller at the gas station, because sometimes gas pumps won't read our card. She says, no, the card's been reported lost or stolen. I mean, this was like 10 minutes after I got off the phone with this lady. And of course, I immediately freak out. So I call Schwab back, talk to a different person. They can't do much. So they put me on the line with the supervisor, and the supervisor has to get on with someone else. So this is taking an hour, or the phone call's taking an hour. And what ultimately ends up happening is they cannot reactivate the card that I have in my possession, which is a problem because we still have 30 something days. I mean, when this happened, we still had like 35 days of travel, and about 30 of those were going to be before we got to where the mail was at. And I was like, well, what are we supposed to do? We don't have any cash. We just do everything through debit, credit, online, etc., etc. So what they could do though is they could reactivate the card long enough for me to pull some money out of the ATM, which I did. I pulled a little bit of cash out, but I don't want to be driving around out here, with a bunch of cash on me. But I was also able to transfer some money back to my Texas bank, which I don't like doing because they don't reimburse fees, and they get all just difficult with some of their banking rules, and I don't like dealing with them. So anyway, Schwab really screwed the pooch and dropped the ball on that one, and they really didn't offer me a good solution for the problem that their person created for us. However, we're going to make the most of it. We know that this is not, the defining story of our journey, just another chapter in our adventure, and we will, navigate the obstacle. I can do reservations with my Texas bank, and we do have cash for things that we need, which is kind of weird. We haven't been using cash since we got back from Mexico in April or March. So it's been since March we've been just using debit. So now we got to shift back over, which is going to prep us for, using ATMs and pulling cash because we got a big journey coming up. But anyway, just be aware. And I think one of those people I talked to after the fact told me that if you want to replace one of your cards, there's basically two options. Lost and stolen is one option, and damaged is the second option. If they pick damaged, then the card you have on your possession it'll still work. It won't turn off and deactivate your card until the new one comes in the mail. But if they pick lost or stolen, then it kills your cards, all of them, until your new ones arrive in the mail. And the first lady that I talked to, she didn't choose lost or damaged. She chose lost or stolen. And when she clicked that, it went past the point of no return because it's a Visa policy that issues the cards. It's not a Schwab policy necessarily. So just keep that in mind. If you're traveling like us and you're getting a little wear and tear on your card and you want to be preventative and get ahead of the problem before you have a malfunction with your chip or anything, that if you don't give them the correct info, if you don't give them the correct info, they're going to nuke you right in the middle of your trip, and it can be extremely inconvenient. But there's always a workaround. There's always a way to adapt and solve the problem. So that's our banking story. And actually, this is the first time anything like this has happened with Schwab, and it's the first big hiccup that we've had in this journey, and it's not even that big of a hiccup because we've already worked past it. All right, enjoy your travels.